took a long time, but after all these years, I finally joined the 4-plate club on weighted pull-ups. So in today's video, I want to share some of the key lessons I've learned along this journey so that you too can optimize your progress while preventing setbacks. So let me first say that this transformation took years, not months. So although you see my peak performance right now and believe that, wow, this is insane, I'm probably not going to get to that point, understand that in January of 2015, I was only doing 70 pounds on weighted pull-ups. And everything has been documented year after year to this point. For all you OGs, you remember clearly in 2017, I said my goal was to get 135 pounds for a 1-rep max on weighted pull-ups. Therefore, the time frame between 2017 and now was 4 years. 4 years to add 1 plate on the weighted pull-up. How many guys would have quit right then and there, especially as the progress slows down, which requires an even greater understanding of proper programming. This literally becomes your competition lift to the point where specialization may very well be required. So what I'm saying is there are no shortcuts in this game, including with some of the steroid users I've seen. There appears to be some numbers that are very difficult to surpass in weighted calisthenics. And so that's what's so beautiful about it. You not only have to be extremely specific, but the grind never stops. And there will be psychological barriers that you must overcome throughout the years. Just to say, at the end of 2018, I acquired 165 pounds on the weighted pull-up. And I was stuck there for a while. Tried 170, failed it. Of course, this led to negative thinking. Am I closing in on my natural potential? Will 4 plates even be possible? What about going beyond that? Is this really it for me? All these negative thoughts start to flood your mind, when in reality, they're delusional because you're still making progress just at a much slower rate. Accept the fact that it's going to be very hard from now on, but don't lose sight of the end goal. It may take years to get where you want to be for such little progress, but it absolutely adds up. And in my case, I decided to master every single grip with 165 pounds because anything above that was my breaking point mentally. And therefore, psychology is extremely important to this game for staying in it. So that's what you saw. Got good at the close neutral, wide, chin up, overhand, semi-pronated, every position you could think of, even including gymnastic rings, maxing out on every style, using a variety of sets and reps, techniques, everything you could possibly imagine. And once I got 165 for everything, I was like, okay, I must have built a base of strength to level up even further. And that's exactly what happened. In a way, this was a form of double progression. What used to be your weakest position is now equivalent strength-wise to your best 1-rep max. And once that happens, it gives you the confidence to finally add that 5 pounds, which is absolutely huge, by the way, with weighted pull-ups. The way I would compare this is to the overhead press, if not worse. If you're doing 2 plates on the OHB, getting to 235 is very challenging. That journey could be an entire year in itself, and it's no different with vertical pulls. So what I'm trying to say is, it's supposed to be hard. Once you escape the I want it right now mentality, you're good. It's all about staying in the game. So if you're stuck at 100 pounds on the weighted pull-ups, keep working for the next 5 years. And if you were specific and intelligent enough with the programming, there should be a crazy record coming soon. Like, I don't think it's unrealistic to do 3 plates in that situation. Not all of us have the same potential, but we can be a lot higher than where we're currently at. And sometimes when you get that ultimate level of performance, you realize you're capable of so much more. So after me believing 4 plates was my limit, I no longer think that's the case. In fact, I can probably do 200 to 225. Some people have said 100 kilos is in the books for you, Alex. Years ago, I would not have believed that. But consistency has shown me that we make a lot of excuses. And with weighted pull-ups, the street lifting numbers are only getting higher every year. I think 10 years ago, the record was 225 for 1-rep max. That's been crushed since then for rep work. And so these elite or advanced numbers are usually not about genetics, in my opinion. It's consistency that'll get you there. Because if anyone would have looked at my performance 5 years ago, they'd say, oh, you're strong at weighted pull-ups, but you're nothing incredible. Now people freak out like, bro, how are you even able to do this? Well, because I never stopped. And you got to do the same thing. And so what are some training implications of all this? Let's start talking about that. For one, you need to treat weighted pull-ups like a competition movement. There's no other way around this. Just like powerlifters have the big three, you need to do the same thing on this exercise. That means maxing out or doing low reps in general, varying your percentages, addressing your muscular weaknesses, practicing technique, and of course, primarily emphasizing weighted calisthenics, particularly because it's body weight based. You can't just do a bunch of lat pull downs and have a massive back, then expect to demonstrate those gains on weighted pull-ups. It's not happening. That's why I said there's no shortcuts with this exercise. You actually have to practice the movement, get very dialed in, which means 80% of your training will probably be weighted calisthenics, including the accessories. So if you want the best pull-up possible, some of your weight training stuff may need to go aside for now. In my case, I didn't go that hard on barbell rows anymore, or all the yoke stuff that you see me do in the past. It wasn't specific to the vertical pulls. I can take my shrug from 500 pounds to 600. I'm not going to see carryover to the pull-up. And if I'm going to do a horizontal pull with the intention of building the upper back, I want something that'll complement the pull-ups. In this situation, inverted rows are your best choice, because we're still engaging upper back when we do vertical pulls, but if we're not training with closed chain movements, you can't just expect instant carryover. So running a sound program is absolutely key. This is no longer an accessory that you're going to throw in at the end of your workout, because that's what the majority of natural bodybuilders do. The pull-up is just another back exercise for hypertrophy. Not with us. So that's why during specialization phases, I don't do a lot of lat pull downs. Got the setup, but I'd rather just do more variations of the weighted pull-up. And those can still be easy, by the way, getting more or less weight. So don't think you have to maximally push yourself every single session. Now, another concept that's extremely important for pull-ups is micro-progression, which comes in two forms. The first is adding in a little bit of extra weight, which is easily achieved since we're probably going to use a loading pin in most cases. And even if we're not, it's weight plates. If you're doing 45 pounds plus a 5-pounder, that will be the equivalent of doing 2.5 pounds on each side with a barbell exercise. You see what I'm saying? Therefore, if you use a 2.5 pound plate, that's like having actual micro plates on the barbell movement. And then you strip it down even further, you have a lot of options. Then comes in the repetition increases. 1 to 2 reps as a PR is massive. Like, that can be the difference between a new one or max versus not. So my best weighted chin up is 95 pounds for 14 repetitions. When I did the 180, I was doing 3 sets of 10 with 95 pounds, which, if you math it out, is an improvement, because your peak set is always going to be a lot easier than your rep work. Like when I was in the 12 to 14 range, my typical hypertrophy sessions was between 75 and 85 pounds, sometimes even less, and they'd be very difficult. So to simplify things, whenever you've been training for a long time and your straight sets start coming close to your original top set PR, that's when you know you built a lot of strength. And I would say if you max out shortly after, you're pretty much going to succeed 9 out of 10 times. In this way, we don't have to focus too much on massively increasing the load. Next, full range of motion matters a lot. You can't do bodybuilding techniques that are TUT based, where you're not locking out at the bottom or getting your chin over the bar. That's how you develop weaknesses throughout the movement while not maximizing your explosiveness. You need to lock out your elbows. Probably go through a dead hang as well. That's how you get really strong out of the hole, which also helps your lockout strength, by the way. It's similar to those who do a tremendous amount of pause benching. This is one of the best ways of improving your lockout strength, because now you're so explosive that The speed allows you to get through the top. It's the same with this. And I can tell that any vertical pull gets really challenging at the top when you're going heavy. So if you're not already emphasizing the bottom portion, the lockout's going to be that much more difficult. And you'll have to compensate by doing way more isometrics, negatives, and direct bicep work, which is helpful. And I do tremendous amounts of that. But usually you're just band-aiding the fact that you don't do full range of motion. So it starts with not selling yourself short. Heck, even pause reps at the bottom are helpful for preventing the cheating mentality. And then for rep work, it's very important that you don't start doing sloppy reps at the top. I see a lot of guys doing reps at 10, right? And maybe the first 6, their chin is over. But after that, it's just eyes even. That's not appropriate. If anything, you should have super range of motion for most of those reps, at the point where your chin's going way above. And then as you approach failure, it starts closing in to where it should be at. So never compromise range of motion just so you can get more reps in. It's not worth it. Usually you just have to dead hang it and grind through. And those reps will be so hard that you do reach failure without having to resort to garbage technique. And that's not ingrained the right movement pattern to begin with. Like many competition movements, you don't want to ego lift. It's like when guys do above parallel squats. Next, you can't just only do the competition form. You have to rotate the variations and address your weaknesses. It's not only about doing vertical pulls. The horizontal is important not only for improving your upper back strength, which is going to help your pull-ups, but for overall posture and ensuring that you don't feel all grindy when you're doing your full range of motion pull-ups. Same goes for rear delt training. If your shoulder's completely shifted forward, you might start getting some shoulder pain when doing pull-ups. So you want that maximum mobility without problems. And then the arms, you must isolate with hammer curls, band curls, whatever, because that'll prevent golfer's elbow from kicking in strong, as well as changing the grips on your pull-ups. If you only do one position, it's the same joint angle stress in that area. This is where listening to your body comes into play, and why having a multi-grip pull-up bar is so valuable, or simply using gymnastic rings. Now you get many customizable options. And like I said at the beginning of this video, you can get PRs in all those variations, which prevents you from being burnt out. You're always setting new records, and the carryover will still be high. Strength to strength in this respect. It's specific enough. Keep that in mind. Don't be that guy who only does pull-ups. That's a big longevity mistake. Finally, I want to end off this video by saying, if you get strong enough at weighted pull-ups, prepare to have massive lats. We can talk about optimal biomechanics all day, or how many bodybuilders don't periodize their training, or even attempt to get this strong at vertical pulls. All that is probably valid, but it doesn't matter because the end result will still get you to the same spot. You're doing 3-4 plates on the way to pull up? Man, don't think for a second you won't be wide. Each plate increase you achieve will make a big difference in your physique. And it's pretty much guaranteed in this respect. You know that muscle gains were acquired, while of course having the carryover to non-calisthenics exercises like deadlifts, lat pull downs. Anything you do in the gym will be peanuts compared to weighted pull-ups. That's what all the street lifting guys will tell you, because it's true. These are harder, and that's why many people skip it. Weighted pull-up specialization won't fail you. It stood the test of time for a very good reason, and it's never going away because it's so effective. So I hope you take your vertical pulls a bit more seriously and recognize that you're probably capable of a lot more. It just requires extreme patience on your part, as well as learning more about what proper programming entails. And with that said, there's not much else for me to say. Covered a lot of points in this video. Didn't want to repeat certain things from my previous segment, like how my weighted pull-up increased, so be sure to check that one out as well. With that, you get a bit more extra methods. This was just another discussion regarding the theme. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. Now I want to know from you, what's been the most helpful in your weighted pull-up journey? And where do you think you'll end up? Let's hear it, and I'll talk to you all next time.